The old house creaked around Sarah. Its bones groaned under the weight of years and secrets. Each day she felt her reflection grow gaunter, her eyes shadowed. The house was feeding on her. It was in the walls, the air she breathed, a constant oppressive presence. Sleep offered no escape. Nightmares plagued her, filled with whispering voices and cold, unseen hands. The darkness held terrors beyond imagining. She had come to this house seeking peace, a sanctuary from the city's clamor. Instead, she found herself imprisoned by something far more insidious. The house was alive. As darkness fell, Sarah would retreat to the solace of her bed. The day's worries and the world's noise would fade away, replaced by the quiet hum of the night. Her bedroom, a sanctuary by day, transformed into a realm of shadows and whispers as the sun dipped below the horizon. Clutching a worn flashlight, she'd pull the covers tight, seeking a barrier against the encroaching fear. The flashlight, a relic from her childhood, had been her steadfast companion through countless nights of unease. Its beam, though faint, provided a semblance of security, a fragile shield against the unknown. The house came alive at night. The old structure, with its creaky bones and ancient walls, seemed to breathe and whisper secrets long forgotten. The wind would howl through the eaves, and the old pipes would groan, creating a symphony of eerie sounds that played on her nerves. The floorboards groaned under phantom footsteps. Each creak and moan seemed to tell a story, a tale of the past inhabitants who once walked those very halls. Sarah would lie still, her heart pounding, as she imagined the ghosts of yesteryears wandering through the house. Whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls. They were soft, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. It was as if the house itself was trying to communicate, to share its ancient secrets with her. She would strain her ears, trying to decipher the murmurs, but they always eluded her understanding. She knew the whispers weren't real. Rationality told her they were just the product of her overactive imagination, fueled by the darkness and the silence. But in the dead of night, when shadows played tricks on her eyes and every sound was amplified, doubt would creep in. At least she told herself they weren't. Her mind would race, conjuring up images of spectral figures and unseen entities lurking just beyond the reach of her flashlight's beam. She would remind herself of the logical explanations, but the fear was persistent, gnawing at the edges of her sanity. Yet every creak, every rustle of leaves against the window sent shivers down her spine. The night was alive with sounds, each one a potential harbinger of something sinister. The rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the occasional thud from the attic, all conspired to keep her on edge. The flashlight, her only weapon against the encroaching darkness, cast trembling shadows that danced with her fear. The beam would flicker and waver, creating grotesque shapes on the walls that seemed to move and shift with a life of their own. She would follow the light, her eyes darting from shadow to shadow, trying to convince herself that they were just tricks of the light. Each night, the ritual repeated. It was a cycle of fear and reassurance, of terror and comfort. She would hide under the covers, listen intently to the sounds of the night, and pray for the first light of dawn to break the spell of darkness. Hide, listen, and pray for dawn. This was her nightly mantra, a routine that had become as familiar as the rising and setting of the sun. And as the first rays of morning light filtered through her window, she would finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing she had survived another night. Lately, a new element had entered her nightly torment. The cellar door. It beckoned her, a silent siren calling from the bowels of the house. She felt an almost irresistible urge to open it, to descend into the unknown depths. What secrets lay hidden in that dark, musty space? The rational part of her screamed at the absurdity of it. It was just a cellar, a damp, forgotten space filled with cobwebs and shadows. But the house whispered differently. It promised answers, a glimpse into its tormented heart. The pull grew stronger with each passing night. One night, Sarah succumbed. She had been fighting the fear for weeks, but tonight it was different. The darkness seemed to whisper her name, pulling her into its depths. She lay in bed, her heart pounding, her mind racing with thoughts she couldn't control. The shadows in her room seemed to move, to breathe, to beckon her towards the unknown. The fear was a living thing now, urging her towards the cellar door. It was as if the house itself was alive, its very walls pulsing with a dark energy that she couldn't escape. She felt an inexplicable pull, a compulsion to confront whatever lay beyond that door. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, the dim light casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Her hand trembled as she reached for the rusty handle. The cold metal sent a shiver up her spine, and she hesitated, her breath catching in her throat. She could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on her, a suffocating presence that made her want to turn and run. But something deeper, something primal urged her to continue. The air grew heavy, thick with the weight of unseen eyes. She could feel them, watching her, judging her every move. The cellar was a place of secrets, of forgotten memories and hidden fears. The shadows seemed to shift and twist, forming shapes that her mind couldn't quite grasp. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, a sentient being that fed on her fear. With a groan, the door swung open, releasing a musty, earthy scent. The smell was overwhelming, a mix of damp earth and decaying wood. It was the scent of time, of years gone by, of things best left forgotten. The air was thick with dust, particles dancing in the dim light that filtered through the cracks in the walls. It was a place untouched by time, a relic of the past. Taking a shuddering breath, Sarah stepped inside. The darkness seemed to close in around her, wrapping her in its cold embrace. She could feel the weight of the house pressing down on her, a tangible force that made it hard to breathe. Every step she took echoed in the silence, a reminder of her isolation. She was alone, completely and utterly alone, in a place that seemed to exist outside of time. The darkness enveloped her like a shroud. It was a living thing, a presence that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. She could feel it pressing against her skin, seeping into her very soul. It was a darkness that went beyond the absence of light, a darkness that was alive, that had a will of its own. It was a darkness that consumed everything in its path, leaving nothing but emptiness in its wake. The air was cold, damp and heavy with the weight of ages. It was a place that had seen countless years, that had witnessed things that no one should ever see. The walls were covered in a thick layer of grime, the floor slick with moisture. It was a place that had been forgotten by time, a place that held secrets that were better left buried. The cold seemed to seep into her bones, chilling her to the core. Cobwebs brushed against her face like ghostly fingers. They were a reminder of the passage of time, of the countless years that had passed since anyone had set foot in this place. The webs clung to her skin, a tangible reminder of the darkness that surrounded her. They were a symbol of decay, of the slow, inevitable march of time. They were a reminder that nothing lasts forever, that everything eventually succumbs to the darkness. Each step down the creaking wooden stairs was a step further into the heart of the house's darkness. The stairs groaned under her weight, each creak a reminder of the fragility of the world around her. The darkness seemed to grow thicker with each step, pressing in on her from all sides. It was a journey into the unknown, a descent into a place that defied understanding. It was a journey that would change her forever, a journey that would leave her forever marked by the darkness. The cellar was a tomb of forgotten memories. Dust-covered furniture loomed in the shadows, each piece whispering tales of a bygone era. Sarah ran her hand over a chipped porcelain doll, its painted eyes staring blankly into the darkness. She could almost hear the echoes of children's laughter, feel the warmth of a family long gone. But there was something else here too, a palpable sense of sorrow, of anger, of something deeply, terribly wrong. The air hummed with it, a discordant symphony of emotions that sent chills down her spine. The house was revealing its secrets, piece by agonizing piece. The whispers started subtly, almost imperceptible at first, like the faint rustling of leaves in a distant forest. At first, Sarah dismissed them as the creaking of the old house, settling after years of silence. She had moved into the house only a few weeks ago, hoping to find some peace and quiet away from the bustling city life. The house, with its ancient wooden beams and time-worn walls, seemed like the perfect retreat. But the whispers grew louder, coalescing into distinct voices. They seemed to come from the very walls themselves, as if the house was trying to communicate with her. Sarah would often find herself straining to catch the words, her heart pounding in her chest. They spoke of a family, the Howells, who had once called this place home. The Howells were a prominent family in the town, known for their wealth and influence, but their story was shrouded in mystery and tragedy. Their story unfolded in fragmented whispers, a tragic tale of betrayal, despair, and ultimately death. Sarah found old letters and diaries hidden in the attic, each one revealing more about the family's dark past. The whispers seemed to guide her to these hidden treasures as if they wanted their story to be told. The cellar, the voices revealed, was where it had all ended. It was a place of secrets, where the final chapter of the Howells story had been written in blood. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she descended into the dark, cobweb-filled cellar, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls, a place of violence, of anguish, of souls forever tethered to the house that had become their tomb. The cellar was filled with old, broken furniture and the remnants of a life long gone. But the most disturbing sight was the blood-stained wall, a silent witness to the horrors that had taken place there. Sarah felt a cold dread grip her heart. These weren't just whispers, they were cries for help, echoes of a past that refused to die. She could feel the presence of the Howells all around her, their pain and suffering seeping into her very soul. They were echoes of a past that refused to die. The house was alive with their memories, their anguish, and their desperate need for closure. Sarah knew she had to uncover the truth to bring peace to the restless spirits of the Howells. But as she delved deeper into their story, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that the house itself was aware of her every move. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, urging her to uncover the secrets that had been buried for so long. And as she stood in the dark hallway, surrounded by ghostly silhouettes, Sarah realized that she was no longer just a visitor in the house. She was a part of its story, a part of the Howells' tragic legacy. The whispers reached a fever pitch as shadowy figures began to coalesce in the gloom. The Howells, their forms shimmering with an ethereal light, emerged from the darkness. Their faces, twisted in expressions of anguish and rage, were a mirror of the torment that bound them to the house. They blamed Sarah, a usurper in their domain, for disturbing their eternal suffering. The air crackled with their anger, their sorrow, their desperate need for release. Sarah, paralyzed with terror, could only watch as they drifted toward her, their spectral hands reaching out to claim her. Panic surged through Sarah. She stumbled back, desperate to escape the spectral onslaught. But the cellar seemed to twist around her, the stairs disappearing into the earthen floor. The Howells pressed closer, their forms flickering like dying embers, their voices a cacophony of despair. She screamed, a primal cry lost in the suffocating darkness. But there was no escape. The house had her now, its grip on her soul, absolute. She had become another prisoner of its darkness, another soul ensnared in its tragic history. As the spectral forms of the Howells enveloped her, Sarah felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. The terror faded, replaced by a chilling acceptance. She was one of them now, tethered to this house for eternity. Her laughter, her tears, her very essence would forever echo within these walls. The flashlight slipped from her grasp, its beam flickering before dying completely, plunging the cellar into an impenetrable darkness. The house had claimed another victim.